All right, welcome to We Geek Together podcast. I have a very special guest on with me today. His name is Dax from Dungeon Master Direct, and I'm going to turn it over to him to tell us a bit about himself.
Hey, thanks, Andy. Bring me. Love it here. I live 10 minutes away. So love having a cool place like this in my neighborhood. But yeah, I am a full-time professional dungeon master. That is my day job. I like to tell people I play so much D&D I have to pay taxes on it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm here to just hang out and talk about what we do.
Heck yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, you run games for companies like Google, right?
Yeah, so I started the business like a month before COVID hit in 2020, which means I was exactly in the right place at the right time when everyone was home and lonely and bored and needed something to do. And I had just barely set up a website and was ready to take payments and advertise. And so it's been really popular for people trying to connect during the pandemic and bachelor parties and friend groups getting together. And then it led into corporate events.
Way cool.
So a lot of these corporations reached out to me and I would do team building events for them.
Okay.
So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. You are also very humble in your introduction. You didn't say you are a world record dungeon master.
Well, that's mostly thanks to you. So you get the credit for that one. I just kind of showed up and was loud for a day.
You are the one dungeon master who could say, I have DM'd over 1,000 players at the same time.
I used to complain when my groups would get more than 6 players. If I'd have a 7th or an 8th player, I'd be like, that's too chaotic.
Now 1,000.
I have lost the right to complain about that.
All right. Let's get into our opening round of drinks.
Oh, thank you, mysterious person off camera.
Yes, so we're drinking, this is mead from Night Raven Beverage. This is delicious. We're both drinking apple. Mm-hmm. That apple mead today. It's delicious.
It's family friendly, alcohol free.
Alcohol free. But I want to hear about what's new with you. What are the quick projects you're working on? Tell us. What is Dungeon Master Direct up to right now?
Oh, I could talk for the next hour about that. I've been doing this for 4 years. We just had our 4-year anniversary last month. Big things coming up. We're running a summer camp for teens this summer in partnership with Teen Author Boot Camp and with Utah Valley University. It's going to be a 3-day event where we're bringing in best-selling authors, professional game designers, and performers to teach kids how to get more immersed in their D&D games and then have open gaming sessions in the afternoon. So that's going to be June 25th through the 27th at UVU's Thanksgiving Point campus.
Oh, wow.
Tickets are already available for that and are already selling. So that's going to be huge. That's just one thing we're doing. This has not been announced to the public yet.
Whoa, all right.
This next thing has not been announced to the public. I've only been whispering it to people, but we are planning a Dungeon Master Direct Game Night Getaway Cruise for 2025.
Whoa.
I've partnered with Dan Wells, who's a best-selling author and has been running the Writing Excuses Retreat Cruise for the last 10 years. We've teamed up and we're already talking with travel agents and waiting on the final contract from Royal Caribbean to officially have a Dungeon Master Direct cruise next year where we do D&D and gaming and board games and exploring Mexico on a cruise ship. So that's happening. You heard it here first.
Genius.
Hopefully by the end of the month, we will have tickets available.
You bet I'm going to clickbait the heck out of that. First time heard public announcement. That's so cool.
Oh, man. It's been a dream of mine for years. And then when I partnered with Dan, he's like, let's do it. I know people. It'll be easy.
I just think it's so clever to be like, man, I want to go on a cruise, but it needs to be work.
It's
like
work. Yes, I'm gonna chill so hard.
Literally, that's why I started the game store. Is because like I want to play games and I want to hang out with my friends. Let me start a game store.
Like, hey everyone, bring your waterproof cards to the hot tub.
Oh,
and
that's
grab
so cool.
a drink.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so that's exciting. It's gonna be a March 2025. Hopefully, tickets will be on sale within the next month with early bird discounts.
Wow. New for Geek Together, we are getting ready for the Dead Wars. This is what this whole production is for. In fact, this is where we are playing before the Dead Wars. This is a D&D live stream we're doing to show the events before the Dead Wars. I mean, I guess the title explains it there. But this is a table. This is a setup. We just turned it into our podcast today. So for people who are watching, if you see people walking around in the store, it's because the tavern is open. We are serving customers normally.
These are not paid actors.
Yeah,
they are actual people.
These are real tavern patrons.
It's also 11:30 in the morning, so it's not going to be super packed either.
Yeah.
You should see this place 7 p.m. on a Friday. It's insane.
Well, thank you. Let's get into the main course. I wanted to talk about the Dead Wars because you're coming back. You're returning.
I'm back. People have been demanding that I come back. So
yes. So you're returning. I want to talk about the Dead Wars. If you have any questions about some stuff, I can tell you some things about it.
Okay. But when am I going to get the script for it? That's what I've been asking.
Okay. Well, I don't have an answer on that one yet. But we're going to talk about the Dead Wars. I also want to talk about what it was like for the last Dead Wars.
Yeah.
Because that was a thing that happened. Mm-hmm. And then I also want to get into the topic of being a professional dungeon master, because that's your job. That's what you do. And for so many dungeon masters, that's like an impossible dream. Who would love to be able to do their passion for a living? And so, yeah.
You don't know what you're getting into.
Well, that's what I want to talk about. The good, the bad, maybe the ugly. Mm-hmm. And yeah, get kind of a peek behind the Dungeon Master screen, if you will, on that. But let's talk about last year's Dead Wars. Tell me how you became part of the project.
How I approached you the first time.
But I want to. It's such a cool story.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned before that I officially started my business 1 month before COVID hit and pivoted everything to be online. Luckily, I'd already been doing online games because my college friends and we moved to different states after we graduated. So I was already familiar with the sort of tools that you would need, Roll20 and Discord and D&D Beyond and all that. So for the first 2-3 years of running my company, it was all online, all remote. It was great. I got to meet people all over the world, but it was lonely, right? Being in the same room day after day, only interacting with people online and, family and stuff. And so I've really wanted to get more involved in the local community. I heard about this place you guys had just opened 11 minutes away from where I live. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go meet everybody. This place looks cool. I heard about the Dead Wars, the Guinness World Record you guys wanted to set. And I'm like, that sounds absolutely crazy. How do I get in on that? And so I came to you with a resume, with a nice polished resume. And I'm like, hey, this is what I can offer. These are the types of things that I do. And something in it worked. I don't know what in it worked, but something in it worked. And you're like, let's get Dax to do this.
You rolled high on that charisma check. That is for sure.
That's why you get expertise in persuasion. So it was a huge step out of my comfort zone, actually.
For sure.
A lot of everything I've been doing up to that point was online from the comfort of home in my nice cozy chair. And so it was terrifying. And I had just been diagnosed with anxiety the year before. So I was on some new meds. I'm an introvert. Don't tell anybody, but that's my big secret. I'm an introvert. But here I was on the day of the Dead Wars, and I needed to entertain 1,227 people. And people ask me, how did you do it? How did you manage that? The good thing was it wasn't entirely on my shoulders. We had a fantastic team that we're working with. You did a brilliant job with the logistics and getting everything set up.
Yeah, I was the production side.
Yeah, and Johnny did a great job with the script and the adventure, and I had a huge support network with my captains. So everything was delegated out and everybody knew their role and everyone excelled in their role. And my job was to just be the face, be the voice, get people immersed into the story.
You were Vecna.
I got to be Vecna.
You were Vecna.
I had to get up there and give the people something to boo at, right? Give them a personification of that antagonist. And then we brought Janie in to play Eldath, and I wanted her to be sort of a stand-in for the audience on stage so that they could see themselves in her shoes as we fought back and forth. And I didn't expect it to feel like a wrestling match where we would be cheering at the crowd and they'd be booing. And
definitely had WWE energy up there.
I was not expecting it, but as soon as I realized that's what it was, I leaned into it. So it was a lot of fun. It was fantastic. I got the boos, I got the cheers that I wanted. And what I loved about it and what made it different from any other game that I've run is just the sheer energy in the room of everybody stomping at the same time, clapping at the same time, even rolling their D20s at the same time for that final battle. Just that sound of thousands of dice clacking at once was electric, like being at a rock concert or at a sports ball game. Like you don't normally see that around your, private kitchen tables.
No.
It was so much fun. And since then, I've been craving more. I've been doing things at other conventions at well. We did a smaller version of it at FanX.
Yep.
I've run a couple of things at Dragonsteel Con. I ran a Mistborn themed honey heist for charity for them one year, and then the next year we did a massive Stormlight RPG play test with 100 people. I mean, I now I want to be in front of people more. It reminds me of the good old days of being a theater kid and being up on stage. So now I'm looking for the next opportunity. So I cannot wait for this next Dead Wars. Now that I know what to expect, now that I've gotten the anxiety managed, I want it to be bigger. I want it to be better. In fact, I want someone else out there. And if you run a game store, I'm talking to you. I want someone to beat our record.
Please.
So that we can come back and beat you back even harder.
Gauntlet
dropped.
Yeah, accept this challenge.
Yes.
we need giants to slay. So far, nobody's on our level.
Yeah, get good, Scrubs.
Yeah.
I would love a friendly rivalry with another gaming store.
We'll even come over and help you. I'll give you our blueprints. We'll give you the secret sauce.
There's plenty of pie to go around.
Yeah.
Plenty of pie to go around. The more people we get falling in love with this hobby, the better it's going to be for everyone.
So during the day of the Dead Wars, what was something, and you talked about like the energy, and you were on stage and you didn't realize it was much more of a production than we had originally thought. What was something that caught you by surprise during the event? Something that you're like, oh, hey, I didn't know that either this would happen or I would feel this way. Just like what stood out to you? Just one thing.
Okay. The sound production for that was not where we needed to be. We were using the mall's PA system, which was not good.
It was a very, very cheap system. We had no clue.
So the people right by the stage couldn't hear anything coming from the
echoey.
mics. The people in like the middle distance could understand what was going on.
Kind of, yeah.
And then there were people on the far ends of the mall who couldn't hear a thing. And I didn't want these people to feel left out. My whole goal with this is that we all would feel like we were part of the same conflict, the same battle, just different parts of the battlefield. And so I had to make a decision right then and there. How am I going to make these people feel included? So I ran to the other side of the mall and I started giving those same announcements at the top of my lungs with no,
oh my goodness,
with no microphone, with no audio visual. I would just go as if I were a messenger and relaying things to make sure everybody heard and everybody knew what was going on. And so I spent most of the day just running from place to place, getting everybody psyched, getting everyone motivated into it. In fact, the loudest group were the ones in the furthest reaches of the mall. They were set on the wall of the big battle of Kingdom Grand. And I would get them to chant and bang on the tables and shout, wall, 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 wall. And we played it up that, they were the furthest outpost from the central conflict, but they still mattered. They still needed to be part of that military unit. And so that was super fun, super electric. It was exhausting. I was so tired. I had to sleep for like 3 days. I got my steps in. My voice was sore the next day. The mall is 2 floors, so I would stand like on the 2nd floor looking down over everyone underneath, and I would give announcements, and I would talk about how the wall has fallen and we must band together as Vecna and his troops rush the streets. We have to protect the children and the innocents, and it was exhausting. It was so exhausting.
Yes, it was.
But I was running on so much adrenaline at the time. Like I could not stop. I could not stop. I just had to see it through to the end. And such a relief when it was over, but it was a blast. It was absolute blast.
Very cool.
Wasn't expecting to be everywhere all at once.
Everything everywhere all at once. That's what it felt like. So here's another question. This year, 2024,
Mhm.
we're doing the Dead Wars again.
Mhm.
Let's say you didn't come to last year's. Why should you come to this year's?
It's going to be a new story, a more original story.
Mhm.
Last year, we wanted to get something that was pretty familiar. We used Vecna as a villain. He's one of D&D's most iconic antagonists, and he inspired Stranger Things. Now we want to do something a little bit interesting, a little bit different. Show two different antagonists. I don't know how much of the story I should spoil.
You can spoil a bit.
But our antagonists are a set of twin brothers, and on Friday you're going to be battling one brother, and then on Saturday we're going to be battling the other brother. I don't know how much more detail I want to go into that, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be a huge thing. So many people told me after Dead Wars, I wish I would have known about this. People I know from New York were like, hey, I wish I would have known about this and I would have flown out for this. Well, this is your chance. You know about it ahead of time. You've heard the stories of what happened last year.
Yep.
So come to it. Don't miss out. There's going to be vendors. There's going to be entertainment. It's even if you're not planning on playing, come and enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the experience, meet with these vendors, buy some of our dice. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, Dungeon Master Direct will have a booth there. So that'll be really cool. You'll be there.
I will be there.
Johnny is returning as the main rider. The Duke from One Shot Questers is coming.
Is he going to be doing like TikTok dances the whole time?
He will
That's
definitely
kind
be
of
doing
his
a lot of
thing.
dances. I told him he and I have to film dancing together for sure. He'll be a table crasher, so he's going to be one of the generals running around,
just
talking
dancing
to the tables.
everywhere.
Probably giving Bardic inspiration.
Every time I get one of his videos on TikTok, it's just him dancing.
Hey, look, he's got the moves, so he should flaunt it. Absolutely. We have Chaotic Entertainment. Xbox Girl, for those of you who follow their channel, they're really cool. And we might even be getting the Dungeon Master from Viva La Dirt League to also be a table crasher.
Very fun.
And then, yeah, like I said, you'll get to see the Dax as the Dungeon Master.
The Dax. Definitively the Dax. Not a Dax. The Dax.
The Dax.
It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
I'm flattered.
And yeah, that'll be happening. Oh, man, I'm so excited. Let's talk about being a professional dungeon master, because that's the only reason. It's not the only reason, but it's a big reason why you were chosen to be the DM of the world record game. Like, I know I needed somebody who was professional, who had good showmanship, who knew how to work with other people, who knew how to fix problems on the fly. I couldn't just get any DM to do this. I could only get some of the best. And so I want to dive more into being a professional dungeon master. You told us a bit about your origin, like how you started during COVID, but like, I guess my question is, what was the main motivation? Like, why did you want to become a dungeon master?
I mean, I had thought about it for years. I played a lot in college when I was studying psychology. So I was using my psychology tricks on my players all the time. I would have two sets of dice, a gold set and a red set. And I would roll the gold set out in the open when we were just having fun and talking and playing around. And then I would switch to the red set when things got a little bit more serious and monsters were actually trying to kill them and the stakes were higher. But I didn't tell my players why I switched dice.
Okay.
But they started noticing.
Psychologically,
They started noticing the
that's evil.
patterns. They started noticing like how intense I would get when I would switch dice to the point where they'd be talking and eating pizza and having a good time, and I would just pick up the red D20 and they would go silent. Which was a lot of fun. I loved using my tricks on my players. And,
That's evil.
And
That is evil.
they really inspired me to get better at my storytelling skills. I had started an improv group in college, and I taught all my improv friends how to play. So you can better believe there was a ton of awesome role playing. And for years, they're like, "Hey, you'd be pretty good at this. You should do this professionally." But I didn't see like a viable path to make it happen.
Yeah.
Because it's tough. It's tough to find clients. Running games, that's easy. That's probably the easiest part about being a professional dungeon master is running games, because that's why you get into it in the first place.
For sure.
It's much harder to find people, get them invested, build your brand, find alternative income streams. That's a lot harder.
Way
and the
hard.
and the administrative stuff and the bookkeeping and the taxes, that stuff's tricky. But I ended up getting my master's in business, and the whole time I
Okay.
was studying that, I was thinking, what kind of business could I start? And so I had a few ideas. And the pro DM thing was in the back of my mind. I had a friend who had dabbled in that, and she had some good success. And eventually, I was watching a YouTube channel, Girlfriend Reviews. If any of you are
Oh yeah.
fans of
I
Girlfriend
love
Reviews,
girlfriend reviews.
they were sponsored by Squarespace. And they're like, here's a coupon to get, a discount on your Squarespace website. I'm like, thank you, Girlfriend Reviews. I'm going to get my website up and just see what happens.
So you just went and did it though.
Yeah, I'm like, after years of thinking about it, I finally decided January 2020, I'm going to use this code. I'm going to make the website and see what happens. And then I got my Costco cash back for the year. I got $200 from Costco, and I'm like, this is my seed money. This is what I'm going to put
That's
into.
insane.
So $200 and a Girlfriend Reviews coupon. That's what I started the business with.
Wow.
And the timing was probably the most essential thing, which I could not have timed better if I had tried. If I'd have started 6 months earlier,
The whole world changed.
yeah,
The whole world changed.
if I would have started 6 months earlier, I would have gotten burnt out from lack of clients. If I'd have started 6 months later, I would have been behind the curve already. But I started exactly when I did, so that day one of the stay-at-home order, I was taking clients.
Wow.
Before even start playing games was up and running, I was taking clients. And within about 4 or 5 months, I was able to quit my day job and do this full time once I was running 4 or 5 games a week.
Wow.
Which was exhausting. And I didn't pay myself during that 4 to 5 months at all. I was still running my day job during the day, running the game at night.
Reinvesting in your
Yeah.
stuff.
And so all the money I made during those first few months was either going into savings to pay myself eventually, or like getting myself the resources or the materials that I needed. So I didn't see a paycheck for a while. And a lot of people come to me like, hey, I love D&D. Help me make money doing it. And like, it was a long time passed before I was able to even write myself my first paycheck. I timed it right. So as soon as I quit my day job and got my last paycheck, the next week was when I got my first Dungeon Master Direct paycheck.
So you were smart about it.
Yeah. I gotta use that MBA somehow, right?
Yeah.
I know how to do a budget at the very least.
Well, that's good. I'm struggling with that on my part right now.
You don't need an MBA to make a budget. You just need good software. But yeah. So it was really hard, and there have been times when I wanted to give up because it's exhausting, and the thing that I used to do for fun and for joy and for artistic expression, it does become work.
Absolutely.
And there are days when I'm not feeling good, but my players are still expecting the highlight of their week.
For sure.
They've been looking forward to this for a long time. So I've got to make sure that I still give them what they're expecting, that I give them an amazing experience. I make them feel good about their time. And usually that cheers me up.
Well,
but it's still tough.
And I want to talk about kind of that ugly side of being a pro DM because it's absolutely like, I can see from the outside it being you're like, wow, it's a dream job. I would love to play D&D all day as my job. But like a lot of people don't realize it actually sucks a lot of the fun out of it when you have to turn a passion into a business. And it's not easy at all. Like I was a video game tester at Nintendo, and I had to play video games 8 hours a day. And this was for 2 years of my life. And I don't play many video games anymore because it completely destroyed video games from me. Removed the magic and removed the fun and the enjoyment. And so
you got to watch how the sausage gets made.
Yeah, and it's not very appetizing anymore. And so I don't play too many video games now. But I wonder, what's the ugly side of being a pro DM? The stuff that people don't really know, which is stuff that you've had to butt up against.
Before I get into the ugly side, one thing I do to keep it fresh is I make sure each of my main campaigns that I run is slightly different in theme or tone or genre. So I'll have like a steampunk game one night, gothic horror another night, a more mythic fantasy the other night, to keep things fresh and to keep experimenting with new things. If every game I ran was your same generic fantasy, I would definitely get bored really fast. But I keep challenging myself. I keep pushing myself, experimenting with different themes and tones, and so that keeps it fresh. That keeps it exciting. It's these long-term groups that you see the progression of the story over a year that really makes me fall in love with it all over again. But with that said,
Yeah, what's the ugly side?
the ugly side, I do a lot of what do I want to say publicly?
Yeah,
I love all
yeah,
of my clients. All of my clients are my favorites. I don't have any problems with any of my clients.
You're in customer service,
yeah,
so no doubt you're going to deal
yeah.
with people who don't really click with you personally.
Yeah, there've been some times, there've been some issues. I do a lot of bachelor parties, and sometimes people are really drunk, or there are technical difficulties that are difficult to get through. I once had this group. I'm not proud of this, but I keep telling this story. I was doing this party for a bunch of 13-year-olds.
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 Okay.
And one of the 13-year-olds was such a jerk, not just to me, but to everyone else there.
Oof.
Just really rude
Toxic
to everybody,
player.
just really toxic, just yelling at people for taking too long, typing yawn in the chat. It's just really problematic player. And at the end of the session, we finally get through. I'm relieved. And then all of the other players start attacking him, attacking his character.
Oh, they just started murdering him.
And I should have stepped in and been like, let's talk about PvP and, consenting to PvP. But I hated that kid. So I just watched them destroy him.
I mean, you gotta learn.
You
Don't
gotta
be
learn.
A jerk to
people. They murdered him. And I'm like, cool. Anyway, next year when that kid turned 14, I didn't hear back from him. So I don't think they were bringing me back. But, sometimes you don't click with people. But you got to do your best to try to figure out what it is that brings people to gaming. Because people have different emotional needs that they're looking to fulfill with the game. Some people love the role-playing. Some people love the problem-solving. Some people just love to be there for the social aspects.
Yeah.
So I've got to determine very quickly,
why are they there?
Why are they there? And how can I serve them? How can I give them the experience that they need? The last one shot I did, surprisingly, it was the same adventure that I ran for that 13-year-old party a year.
There wasn't murder at the end, though.
No, it was great. It was wonderful because, I had improved as a DM, and I'm a lot better now at discerning very quickly within opening introductions why people are here, what they're looking for, how I can best serve them. Because if you're doing this as a hobby and as a passion, you're doing it for yourself, right? When you're doing it for clients and, dozens, if not hundreds of clients, you got to take on the servant mindset of, hey, I'm here to give people the best time. What do they need? And you have to sort of remove your ego from it.
Yeah.
And think, how can I best be the sort of dungeon master that's going to get people excited about this game and get them coming back for more? How can I take the spotlight off of myself and shine it on each of the players at the table so that everybody has their moment to be the hero? Everybody has their moment to shine. Everybody has a reason to come back. And once you can remove yourself from that and just let other people be stars, that's when you know you've made it. That's when you know you're a great dungeon master.
Yeah.
At that point, when you're no longer the main character, but everyone else feels awesome. Everyone else feels heroic, and they're just grateful for the time you put into it. That feels great. That feels great.
What you said there, remove your ego, I think is so important, because I feel like I got into being a dungeon master very ego focused. Like, it was like, I have this cool story, I have this cool world, I have these cool characters I want to share with the players.
Yep.
And I feel like a lot of new DMs have that. Absolutely.
I started like that. We all do.
But having to remove your ego and fully focus on the other players is it's really hard for DMs to do, and I think that's absolutely one of the hallmarks of being a professional dungeon master.
And a lot of DMs who still have that ego and are still trying to tell their own story rather than telling the player story, they get burnt out. They clash with players. They're not there for the same reason, and they're not as successful and they don't get the 5-star reviews that I get.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be hard for you to keep a player base if you're focused more on yourself than your players, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Quick question here: what does a pro dungeon master use for note taking?
For note taking, I like to use Trello. It's an
Trello.
online application.
Is that the one with the elephant? No, I'm
with
thinking
the
of something
elephant?
else.
No, that's Evernote.
Oh, okay.
Trello,
You know.
yes. Hey, I used to use Evernote. So Trello is set up Kanban style where you can create these different lists. So I'll have a couple of different columns, one for characters, one for plot, one for writing story recaps, one for antagonists, one for each of the players.
Not sponsored by Trello, by the
No,
way.
but
This
if you
is
want to
just-
sponsor me, Trello, if you want to sponsor me, I will plug that all the time.
I will I just want to give a peek behind the actual Dungeon Master
Yeah.
screen.
So I'll have each of these columns, and in these columns you have different cards, and on each of those cards I'll have notes. And in those notes I'll have check marks and lists. I love making lists, and I'll plan a session ahead of time by writing a list of things that I think need to happen, right? Big plot points I want to hit, new characters I want to introduce, magic items that they could potentially find, rooms or traps they might spring. And so I'll make the list, and then if they do the thing, I check it off. Chances are I'll have a couple of things unchecked each section, and I'll have another section of what actually happened. And then I'll write like brief bullet point notes of what actually happened. And then after my session, before the next session, I'll do a recap. I'll write up about 500 words or so of what happened last time. And while I'm looking over those notes, looking at what happened, looking at what didn't happen, I'm writing the recap the same time I'm planning the next section. So Trello is a great tool for helping me visually organize my thoughts and keep everything together for a whole campaign. And I've had campaigns that have lasted 50 sessions or more.
Wow.
That I just keep it all within one Trello board.
That's way cool. Yeah, and you built your own website. You're using Squarespace.
Squarespace, yes. If you want to
Also
sponsor me, let me know.
But it's, I think it's really cool because you're using. It's not too hard. It's very hard. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just saying like the tools you use are tools that everyone has access to.
Yeah, everyone has access to these tools. A lot of these things have free trials. I use the free version of Trello. I use Roll20 for maps and everything. There's a free version of that. I use a paid version so I can use fancier techniques.
Yeah. But these tools are open for everyone.
Yeah.
But not everyone will be at the level to be a pro DM. In fact, I would say only maybe about 1% of dungeon masters in the world will ever be at that level.
Probably less.
Yeah, probably.
But you got to start somewhere. Like everyone is on their dungeon master journey, right? You're not born with it. Matthew Mercer was not born Matthew Mercer, right? Literally, like that's not even his real name. His real name's Matthew Miller. That's Mercer's a stage name.
That's funny.
He literally was not born Matthew Mercer. He started somewhere and used his background and used his skills, and he's on a journey, and we're all on a journey. And when I started my journey, I at least the professional aspect of the journey, I had a tiny corner in our spare bedroom, and I had a screen behind me, and behind that screen were all of these boxes, and I used Halloween decorations to decorate the space around me, and I used like the bare minimum that I possibly could. I figured out the minimum viable product for a professionally run D&D game. And as like I said, I didn't pay myself for the first 6 months, but I used all that money to invest in better equipment, to get a better camera, to get a better microphone. Eventually I invested in a better chair that was better for my back and for my health. And now I'm in another room of the house, and I've got the standing desk, and I've got this cool light set up, and I do have all sorts of these bells and whistles that I didn't need at the beginning. Because at the beginning, you don't need bells and whistles.
Nope.
You need to be able to engage people on a personal level, figure out what they need, and entertain them. Have a good voice, have a good rapport with them. That's what's essential.
Yes.
You can add in the bells and whistles later. And eventually I did. And
the bells and whistles they don't make you a good DM at all.
If you have all the bells and whistles, but none of like the interpersonal skills, you're not going to be successful.
Doesn't matter how fancy your camera is, doesn't matter how fancy your setup is.
Mhm.
You can have an interactive touch TV table with the coolest miniatures and none of that
But
matters.
if people don't like talking to you, and
Yeah.
if they don't feel heard
if you
when
can't
they're
tell a
sharing
story,
ideas,
if you can't relate to your players, if you can't engage someone,
Mhm.
it won't work.
Like in college, I just had one of those wet erase Chessex maps, the ones that if you use red dry erase or wet erase markers on it, it would be forever stained red.
Yes,
we
I
used,
know those.
We used those, and we'd use our dice for our character tokens. I found a bunch of buttons, and I used them for monsters. I had a bunch of D12s that I used, and I would number them 1 to 12 to represent who the monsters were. And we told fantastic stories with the very, very basic setup. Some of the best games I've ever had have been on that map. Barely able to use spatial reasoning, but we had great characters and great personalities at the table. Like, that's more important. The bells and whistles are nice, and if you're presenting people a professional product that is polished and is expensive, and I've had to raise my prices a couple of times over the last 4 years. I'm charging about twice as what I did at the beginning because
Fantastic.
I just don't have time to
it's
do
worth
everybody.
it.
Yeah, and so now people are expecting, full color maps and animated spell effects and all these other things. But if I didn't have that foundation of being able to talk to people, being able to make sure they're heard, like that's won't matter as much. If you can do both, great.
All right, well, let's get the last call for drinks. Where can we find Dax? What are your socials?
Yeah.
What's the upcoming projects? Plugs? Give us your plugs.
Easiest way is to Google professional dungeon master. I'll be the first thing you find on Google after the
that's
ads.
some SEO hacking right
Yes,
there.
lucked into that. Or you could just go to us directly, dungeonmasterdirect.com. You'll be able to find all of our social links on Facebook and Instagram. I haven't posted on Twitter or now X, formerly known as Twitter. Haven't posted on that in a while. I don't know.
I don't use it.
So yeah, you can find things there. You can find our upcoming events, including Teen Dungeon Boot Camp and including the cruise that isn't officially on the website yet, but will be hopefully by the end of the month.
You know I'm booking.
You better. You better.
I'm
Hey,
booking.
bring some friends. We'll give you a discount.
Yes. Oh, I will. I'll bring the whole tavern. We'll close down for a week. No problem.
But yeah, find us, dungeonmasterdirect.com. If you're in Utah, we're at a lot of local vendors markets selling dice and talking about our services. I'll be at FanX this year, Dragonsteel Con, and I'll be hanging around at the tavern whenever Andy invites me.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for watching. I'm Andy. This is We Geek Together. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all under We Geek Together.
Where do they subscribe? Do they subscribe over here? Over here?
I
Where's
don't
that
know.
button going to be?
There's a thing somewhere around here. And a reminder, this table is what we're using for our live stream games before the Dead Wars, so you can see what's happening before the big game. When you're up on the stage, you'll get to see the enemies and the heroes that everyone's going to be fighting alongside. So I'm really excited about that. Have a good one.